A group of friends exploring the woods comes across an abandoned fire tower where they spot an old locket dangling from its frame. Troy, one of the friends, feels an odd fascination with it and decides to take it, despite a warning from another member of the group who recalls a disturbing legend about the area. Not long after, something begins to stir beneath the earth. A corpse, long buried, begins to rise. It's the decayed body of a man named Johnny. His flesh is mottled and aged, a clear sign that he's been dead for many years. The locket's removal seems to have reawakened him, and now he's consumed by a single burning purpose: to recover it. Johnny moves silently through the forest, tracking the group who unknowingly disturbed his rest. As night falls, the friends sit gathered around a campfire, and Aaron shares a dark tale about Johnny. Years ago, Johnny had learning difficulties and was tricked by cruel kids into climbing the tall fire tower, lured with a lie about toys at the top. But in doing so, he was terrified and ended up falling to his death. Official reports called it a tragic accident, but local legends spoke of his spirit seeking vengeance, leaving behind trails of blood in 2 horrific killing sprees over the years. Spooked by the tale, the group retreats to their cabin, but unbeknownst to them, Johnny is already nearby, watching from the shadows. Later, the friends begin joking and teasing Aaron, and he angrily storms off alone into the forest. But Johnny follows him silently, and doesn't take long for him to catch up. In a brutal attack, Johnny decapitates Aaron and drags his lifeless body to the ranger's outpost, where he throws the severed head against the window to shatter it. Inside, he arms himself with hooks, an axe, and an old firefighter's mask. The next day, Aurora and Brody spend time by a lake. While Brody takes a swim, Aurora stays on shore practicing yoga. Brody jokes around, trying to lift her spirits, but she remains distant. Beneath the water, Johnny lurks, waiting for the right moment. Suddenly, Brody screams while thrashing in the water, and moments later, her lifeless body surfaces, pierced by an arrow. Johnny emerges from the lake and silently returns to the forest. Aurora, now practicing yoga near a cliff, spots Johnny emerging from the trees. She panics and attempts to escape, only to realize there's nowhere to run. The drop behind her is steep and deadly. Johnny closes in and uses his hooked weapons to stab her, then coldly throws her body over the cliffside. Meanwhile, Troy, Colt, and Evan argue over missing car keys and their vanished friends. Not long after, Johnny stumbles upon one of the lost keys, still attached to a toy car keychain. He sits down at the base of a tree, removes his mask briefly, and fiddles with the key like a child. As others search for the missing key, Johnny watches them from a distance. He jams a stick against the car horn, causing it to blare continuously to draw attention. Using the noise as the distraction, Johnny attacks the man who stole the locket, slicing into his leg. Gunshots ring out. One of the friends fires twice, hitting Johnny and knocking him down. He then tends to the injured man's ankle and tries to lean on one another to escape, but Johnny rises again, strikes one of them with his axe, and smashes the other man's head with a rock. Chris and Colt later stumble upon the bodies of their murdered friends. They barely have time to react before Johnny appears once more. He sees the necklace now in Chris's possession and attacks, but she and Colt escape using a vehicle. That night, the two arrive at the ranger station. The ranger tells them the truth. The necklace was a seal, the only thing keeping Johnny locked in his endless sleep. Removing it had awakened him, and now it must be returned to its original resting place. Facing Johnny again, the ranger tries to reason with him, asking if he remembers the horrors he caused a decade ago. He then fires a shot into Johnny's chest, dropping him once more. The ranger reveals that Johnny's father, a survivor of his earlier rampage, had once subdued him and placed him into a dormant state. The ranger instructs Colt to retrieve a chain from the fire tower to restrain Johnny. But before they can act, Johnny awakens again. He kills the ranger in a swift, vicious attack, then drags his body to a machine, using it to savagely dismember the ranger's corpse. Johnny, now fully consumed by rage, heads off in pursuit of the remaining survivors. Eventually, he finds Colt and Chris. As Johnny approaches, Colt sacrifices himself, stepping forward without fear. But Johnny strikes with horrifying force, smashing Colt's skull with one deadly swing. Chris, horrified and frozen, watches the life leave her friend's body. Knowing she's next, Chris quietly removes the necklace and places it on a nearby bottle, hoping that abandoning it might stop Johnny. She runs. Her feet get badly injured while running, but she pushes through. Eventually, she finds a road and collapses at the sight of an approaching car. A kind woman steps out, helps Chris into the vehicle, and rushes her to the hospital. The woman gently tries to comfort her and offers her food, but Chris remains silent for a long time. After a long silence, Chris mutters that he's a devil who looks like a man. The woman's expression changes and reveals that something similar had happened to her own brother 30 years ago, a man who once worked in these same woods. Strange things had happened in the woods ever since. As the car moves deeper into the forested road, Chris begins losing consciousness from blood loss. The woman stops the car and tends to Chris's wounds, trying to stem the bleeding. As she wraps her injuries, Chris stares nervously into the woods, afraid Johnny might return. But Johnny has gone back to where he belongs. He only awoke to take back the locket, and in doing so, he has taken many lives. Now that it's been left behind in the forest, he has no more reason to hunt.